First, I want to start off with saying thank you to those who are coming back and watching and subscribing and hanging out, commenting and liking and everything like that. So, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. It makes me feel like I'm actually putting out something that you enjoy and that you're kind of here to watch it improve over time. So, hopefully, this episode, episode 5 of the Bennington Triangle, will do you some justice, and maybe you look forward to seeing some other video. I don't know, but I actually enjoy giving you something that you're enjoying yourself. So thank you for that. On with the episode. She walked away just a few yards, and when she came back, he was gone. Where had Paul gone? It was a cold October afternoon in 1950 when 8-year-old Paul Jepson vanished without a sound from the side of a quiet Vermont road. His mother had only stepped away for a few minutes, just long enough to tend to the pigs at the town dump, something she did every week. But when she turned back, Paul was gone. No scream, no struggle, no goodbye, just gone. What makes Paul's disappearance so chilling isn't just how sudden it was, or how close he had been when it happened. It's the silence that followed. No one saw a thing. No one heard a thing, and even now, more than 70 years later, no trace of him has ever been found. Not a thread of clothing, not a footprint, not a body, just the empty wind moving through the trees. At the time, Paul and his family lived just outside of Bennington, in a small town called Shaftesbury. His mother worked at the local dump, feeding the pigs, sorting through the garbage, keeping things in order. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid. And Paul, like most 8-year-olds in a rural town, spent a lot of time around his parents. On that day, October 12th, 1950, he rode with his mother to the dump. It was routine. He'd been there before. He was dressed warmly, most notably in a red jacket. That detail would become important. They arrived late morning, parked, and she told Paul to stay near the truck while she went to tend the pigs. He agreed. She walked away just a few yards, and when she came back, he was gone. Within the hour, a search was underway, as does when children go missing. The moment the alarm was raised, locals sprang into action. Neighbors, friends, farmers, people who had known the Jepson family for years, put down their tools and joined in. By the end of the day, more than 50 people were scouring the area. The terrain behind the dump was rough but familiar. Dense woods, loose gravel paths, and steep inclines that turned slick in the autumn rain. There were boulders older than memory and tree roots that reached like fingers across narrow walkways. Still, it wasn't impassable, not for adults, not even for a child, if he'd stayed upright. Volunteers combed through the forest line, calling Paul's name as they walked. Some formed search lines moving shoulder to shoulder in sweeping arcs. Others climbed into the brush with flashlights and ropes, checking crevices and hollows. The temperature dipped that night. The leaves, already brittle, crunched beneath their boots like bones snapping in the underbrush. And above it all, the sky remained clear, too quiet for comfort. By day 2, the Vermont State Police joined in. Now remember, Vermont State Police was a new thing created after Paula's disappearance. So the Vermont State Police is still generally pretty new here. Bloodhounds were brought from New Hampshire. Planes from the National Guard flew overhead, mapping the area from above and looking for any flashes of red in the foliage below. Which honestly, autumn, probably a lot of red if I'm going to be real here. They did find one partial trail. The dogs picked up Paul's scent along a ridge to the east of the dump, moving toward a grove of trees near the highway. Then it stopped. No veering off, no winding turn, just a hard end, as if someone had plucked the boy off the earth and vanished into thin air. What disturbed searchers most wasn't the trail ending, it was how clean it ended. There were no signs of distress, no broken branches, no drag marks, not even crushed leaves to suggest Paul had left the trail at all. And the red jacket, something that should have stood out like a fire in the forest, was nowhere to be seen. Not even a shred of it. After 4 days, frustration crept into the search. Some volunteers refused to leave, going back into the woods alone at night. Others began talking about what they called, quote, dead zones, areas where people felt their compasses shift or their sense of direction collapse. Whether it was panic, folklore, or something stranger, no one can say. But one by one, people stopped showing up. And on the 7th day, the official search was suspended. That's gotta be a hard decision for somebody that's just like not showing up for the next day, you know? To sit there and be like, I don't want to be the guy that quits looking for the kid. But then you also have that in your mind, like, kid's gone, you know? Like, I don't want to be that guy. In the weeks that followed, the Jepson family refused to let the case go cold. Paul's father, a caretaker for the local dump, stayed up nights listening to the wind, hoping for any sound, a voice, a rustle, something to say his boy was still alive out there. Paul's mother clung to routine. She gave statements to the Bennington Banner, always emphasizing the same details: his blonde hair, his favorite red jacket, his playful grin. It became a ritual, saying the words aloud as though repetition might carry through the trees and reach him. She told reporters she didn't believe he was dead. Not yet. Quote, I feel him out there, she said. Like he's close. But closeness means nothing when silence fills the space. The press kept the story alive for a time. Scared the shit out of me. The press kept the story alive for a time. Columns ran in the papers as far as Boston. Headlines asked what had happened on the dump road that October afternoon. But it wasn't long before the link dried up and the headlines gave way to newer tragedies. The people of Shaftesbury held a candlelight vigil at the local church 2 weeks after Paul disappeared. A single photograph of him sat at the front, a black and white snapshot taken in the summer before, with Paul holding a stick like a sword and grinning toward the sun. The red jacket wasn't visible in the photo, but everyone in town saw it in their minds. One elderly resident later said she stopped wearing red for 5 years after Paul disappeared. Quoting her, felt like I'd be mocking the mother, she said. Like if I wore it, I'd be lying, pretending he wasn't still missing. People don't forget that kind of loss, especially in a small town, and yet the town had no choice but to move on. Work had to be done, fields had to be tilled, roads had to be cleared for winter. But in the quiet hours behind closed doors, people still wondered, where had Paul gone? What had taken him? And why had no trace ever surfaced, not even now? As the days stretched on and the stretch turned cold, the town began to whisper. No one could explain how Paul Jepson had vanished so completely and where currently failed. Speculation stepped in. Some theories were practical, others were darker, and some sounded like something pulled from the bottom of an old Appalachian ghost story. Each one tells you more about the people left behind than the boy who disappeared. The wandering theory. This was the official line, that Paul had simply gotten curious. Maybe he wandered down the slope, stepped off the trail, and lost his way. But it doesn't add up. The terrain behind the dump is rugged, but not unforgiving. There are deer paths, old cart roads, and man-made logging routes crisscrossing the area, and Paul had been here many times. He wasn't a stranger of the dump or its edges. He wasn't known to wander. He was curious, yes, but grounded. Most importantly, he was wearing a red jacket. Searchers combed the entire area for days. Dozens of people walked those woods shoulder to shoulder. Bloodhounds swept the hills. If Paul had simply wandered into the brush, someone should have seen him. From 100 feet away, that jacket should have looked like a flare, but no one saw it, not once. The abduction theory. Then came the theory that someone had taken him, that in those few minutes his mother stepped away, someone drove up the dump road, took Paul, and left, fast, clean, without a trace. But this theory falls apart under even the smallest scrutiny. Like, for real, back then, how do you not hear a vehicle roll up? They weren't quiet back then. So, come on. The dump road wasn't a highway. It was remote, quiet, and narrow. You couldn't just drive up, park, and snatch a kid without being seen. There were no unfamiliar tire tracks, no other cars reported in the area, no witnesses to anything strange. And the timeline, it would have taken precision, almost impossibly so. His mother was gone for mere minutes. Even in today's world, with 24-hour surveillance and forensic mapping, a child abduction with that level of speed and silence would be considered extremely rare. In 1950s rural Vermont, it borders on the implausible. Again, there's no way those cars were way louder back then. The pig pen theory. It's the one that haunted the town the most. The dump kept pigs, large, heavy animals, often used to deal with food waste. And pigs, as anyone who's ever lived near a farm will tell you, aren't picky eaters. It's not a folk tale. There are real cases. No joke. Look at the Belle Gunnis episode that I did. She fed dead bodies to pigs and they ate that up. So let that sink in. I mean, like, there's stuff where, like, the mob even has fed bodies to pigs. Don't come for me. In 2012, a farmer in Oregon fell into his pig enclosure. By the time he was found, only his dentures remained. In Canada, a man named Robert Picton fed human remains to pigs during a series of serial killings. And don't forget, pigs eat teeth too. Or maybe it's the only thing they can't digest. I don't remember. Don't at me though. So the theory arose, Paul fell into the pen, the pigs consumed everything, so no trace was left behind. It's a horrifying idea, and the kind of explanation people cling to when the alternative is supernatural. But this theory, too, collapses under inspection. There was no sign of struggle, no ripped fabric, no drops of blood. The pigs were calm, the pen was intact. Paul's mother had only been a short distance away. She insisted that if something had happened, if her son had been attacked, she would have heard it. And I'm sure if a kid was getting attacked, even by pigs, there would have been some form of screaming like, "Mom, come get me, man. This pig's trying to eat me, dude." I almost swore. I'm trying to like veer away from that now. Still, the theory stuck because it gave people an ending, a way to move on, if you will, even if it was too awful to say out loud. The psychic and paranormal angle. Not long after the story hit local papers, a woman from upstate New York contacted the Jepsons. She claimed to be a clairvoyant, said she'd seen Paul near water, alone, afraid, and unable to speak. The police noted the call, but no action came from it. Some say Paul's parents quietly followed up on their own. Others say they never mentioned it again. Either way, no one found anything. But this wasn't the first time odd suggestions had cropped up in the region. There were old stories about Glastonbury Mountain, that it didn't like to be looked at, that it had spots where compasses spun and shadows fell wrong. Some locals still believe the mountain took things, people, animals, and voices, and didn't give them back. Was Paul just the latest? Some thought so, and most didn't talk about it. The mountains, in Paul's words. The final theory didn't come from a newspaper or a psychic. It came from Paul. According to his mother, in the days leading up to his disappearance, Paul had said something strange. Quote, "He wanted to go back into the mountains," she told the Bennington Banner. Back into the mountains? He was 8 years old. He hadn't gone hiking, hadn't been deep into the forest, and he wouldn't have had any reference point for what, quote, back meant in this context. So where did that line come from? Was it just a child parroting something he overheard? Was it imagination or innocent repetition? Or had Paul seen something, felt something, that the adults around him couldn't understand? I mean, they do say like kids have like this like sense of like the weird stuff. Like, you know, when you see a kid looking up at the top of the stairs, screaming and pointing, or laughing and pointing, or whatever, and you don't see anything, well, they do. I'm a firm believer of that. For sure. Dogs do it all the time, too. The comment haunted people more than they expected. Because when a child says something strange, you laugh it off until they disappear. Then you replay every word over and over and over again. So what remains of Paul Jepson? Paul's case faded, like so many others in the Bennington Triangle. But something about it stays with people. That the red jacket, the timing, the silence, the fact that he was so close, right there, and then just gone. There's no closure here. No answer waiting in the winds. Just an open space where a boy used to be. and a mother who turned her back for one moment in a place where people vanish. And honestly, especially with the last few cases before Paul, it wouldn't surprise me if people were kind of on edge about it. But then at the same time, there's people out there that's just like, they think, oh, it could never happen to me. Yeah, I mean, it might not. The likelihood of it happening to you might not happen, but it might. There's always that sliver of it might. Like the Superstition Mountains. There's some weird stuff that went on about there. And I'm going to be covering a small sliver of the weird stuff that happens in the Suspicion Mountains. But it's just a point of the matter, right? There's weird stuff that happens in national parks. There's weird stuff that happens along the Appalachia all the time. That's why they've got the rules. So, yeah. Paul's just one of the 5 that I'm covering in this series here. And if you're catching this now, this is episode 5. You've got some catching up to do. So this has been Cracked Relic. Thank you for watching this episode of the Bennington Triangle series that I'm doing. And we'll catch you in the next one. Or a previous one. Really depends on where this one drops in front of you. But we'll see you again. And as always, sources are in the description and coming up after this. Thank you for watching.
Don't want to sit around and wait. Thin skin, I'm underwater. Is this really happening? You stay silent, you don't mind. Happiness or dollar signs to you. What about not stealing anyone's time? Anyone's time. I